All right. So we've talked about how basically all business is just a trade of value. You give them something valuable, they give you their time, energy, and money. You just trade it back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and you send up and make a ton of money, right? That's how it works. Everyone's happy. You've learned how to control how value is perceived. So when you present something for that trade, you've learned how to kind of what the levers are to make that look as valuable and be as valuable as possible to that reader or to that in this case the customer. Now that's how businesses operate. That's the foundation. Now, there's a key component here that facilitates and sort of empowers that entire process. You can't make a sale though. You can't engage in that trade unless there is an implied trust, right? You don't engage in a marketplace you don't trust. So let's go over how this works. We're going to talk about how trust is created and generated and how you can take advantage of this principle, right? So how to create or generate trust. So it's all based on trust. So there's an old saying, right? It wasn't Galileo, but it was somebody, and they said people buy from others they know, like, and trust. Know, like, and trust, right? It's foundational, right? You don't buy from people you don't know, like, and trust, right? Alex Hormozi, again, the guy who synthesized that whole value equation that we showed in one of the other videos, he also has a saying where he says sales is a transfer of belief over a bridge of trust, right? And that's true, right? You can't actually exchange value. You can't instill beliefs in that other person that they should buy your product, they should trust, or they should buy your product, that it's going to help them, that there's a likelihood that it's going to change their life at a certain time. All of that depends on there being some sort of mutual trust between you and the person you are communicating with. So the $1 million question is, how do you get someone to trust you, right? It's not by saying trust me, right? That just conjures images of like sleazy car salesmen. You don't want to do that. And that's the thing, right? Many consumers have been burned in the past by engaging with online businesses or people who have betrayed their trust. So people are more hesitant than ever to give out their trust. But it's still the foundation of business. They only still do business with people they know, like, and trust. So how do you sort of engineer that trust? How do you make sure that the person trusts you in order to engage with you, make that trade, and exchange value with you, right? How do you get someone to trust you? The first thing is social proof. You have to understand that humans are social creatures. We evolved tribally, like we lived in tribes, right? And we had to learn how to make decisions quickly, right? If the tribe started running in that direction, right, all of a sudden they were all like out hunting, gathering, all of a sudden everyone starts running that direction. You don't really pause and think, you just start running too, because if you see the rest of the tribe making that decision, you have to kind of just assume that maybe they saw something you didn't. And as you run, you realize, oh, look, they all saw a tiger. I'm so glad I'm running. You don't like pause and wait, super verify. If you see your tribe doing something, you're more likely to do it as well, right? This still happens today. If you see other people doing something, or if you see people like you doing the same thing, chances are you will trust that that action is a good idea, right? So if you see a lot of people buying from a specific business, if you see wall after like a whole list after list, person after person, and a testimonial section saying how they've done this product and it gave them what they want, your belief in that thing goes up just because you see other people doing it and see other people believing it, right? We're social proof. We take cues from other people. So businesses can take advantage of this by providing social proof, showing how other people are doing this. That's kind of implied, right? If you see someone with a high follower count, or someone with lots of subscribers or something like that, you just kind of know, hey, like if a million other people are following this person, there must be something valuable here. You can kind of implicitly believe them, because if they were a terrible scammer, everyone would have run away, for example, right? Something to keep in mind. The second thing, one of the other things that sort of creates or facilitates trust is indicators of authority, right? Why do people trust doctors, right? Or presidents or CEOs, right? When a doctor comes in and tells you something medical, you just trust him because he's an authority figure. You see the white coat, the name tag, the stethoscope. You've been conditioned to trust authority, right? This isn't necessarily a bad thing, right? It speeds up the decision-making process. Sometimes the speed of decision-making is important, but it can be taken the wrong direction. If you're familiar with the Milgram experiment, the shock therapy experiment, they were trying to figure out how Germany was able to how like these normal people were able to do these terrible, terrible things in Germany back during the 1940s, 1930s and 40s. So they conducted this experiment where they made it look like they were testing the person. They were doing like math problems. They're giving math problems, and they were going to they were shock these people. If they got the question wrong, if they got the question right, they would be fine, right? It was a test. Theoretically, it was all an experiment to see if shocking people helped them learn faster, right? But really, it was an experiment to see how far people would go along with this, right? So the person who was on the other side getting shocked was just a paid actor. He wasn't getting shocked, he was just acting, right? And the doctor running the experiment was part of the experiment. The guy, there was another assistant in there who was another part of the experiment, but the guy who was actually doing the shocking, he was just a paid, he thought he was just a paid assistant, but he was actually the one they were testing, right? So they'd go through and the person would get some problems right and some problems wrong. And they, shock them a little buzz. And there was like an intensity scale, there was like a 1 to 10. And so I think there was even like a warning, like 10, like could cause bodily harm or whatever. So as they go up, they would increase the thing and they'd try and see how far, like what percentage of people would actually go all the way, right? Surprisingly, it was something crazy. It was like only like 1 in 10 would actually resist and say, no, I'm not going to shock this other person. Almost everyone else would just submit to the authority and just do it. People are sheep, right? Now, this can be a terribly bad thing, right? People can take this to the extreme. However, you can use it for good. If you believe that what you're doing is actually helping people, and it should, and you should be, you should only really be working for businesses and products and selling things that you actually think are going to help people. If that's the case, you can take advantage of the authority process or the authority factor when it comes to generating trust. If you can show accreditation, if you can show any kind of factor that shows that you are an authority figure or borrow authority from some organization like that, then you should, right? Because it will help someone make the decision quicker and easier to change their life in a positive way. You got to be careful, and you as an individual should be wary of all of these tactics that I'm using. And if you see someone using these, you need to always still use your own brain to figure out whether or not something's good or not, just as a good consumer. So anyways, authority is a powerful motivator and a powerful thing to show trust. Another one is indicators of competency, right? So if a business shows that they know what they're talking about, if you hear someone and they say something that you agree with, they show that they understand something, they show that they're professional, they have a professional understanding of something and you guys can agree on something. And then if they show you bonus points, if they show you that they understand the problem even a little deeper than you're more likely to believe them. You're like, okay, this guy is actually obviously competent in this field. He understands the basics that I understand, and then he understands it a little bit more. I'm going to trust him, right? And indicators of competency is a powerful way to increase trust. That you're more likely to trust someone if they look and seem competent, right? This is basic stuff, but these are things that actually you can show up and help businesses by mixing these into the communication. Again, I'll show you how to do that when we talk about how to write emails or how to write Facebook ads and stuff. But these are important foundational business concepts you have to understand if you want to create and bring value to your clients. So the other one is relatability and likability. Again, humans are social creatures. We're designed to look for other people in our tribe and follow and interact with them, right? So if they like you, if they can relate to you or aspire to be like you in some way, they will think he's one of us. So they're one of us and just trust you implicitly because, oh, he speaks like me, he talks like me. He's a likable person. Some people even do this by making like a slight damaging omission, like, oh, they admit to a small vice or something like that. There's ways to make people like you. And if you come off as a likable person, they're more likely to trust you and trust that you are a good person and have their best interest at heart, which you should. You should actually have their best interest in mind, right? Now, these are some of the most powerful ways that businesses can communicate to inspire trust. That's just in the communication, the words they speak, the way they present themselves. These are sort of some of the more powerful indicators that will trigger that trust inside of a potential customer. Now, it's not just enough to generate that initial trust, right? You have to magnify that trust, right? This might be enough to get someone to start following someone or to take 1 or 2 tiny little steps forward, maybe purchase 1 or 2 things. But trust is magnified by trading up, right? You're going to make a bunch of successive value trades. Let's say you're a customer and you're interacting with a business. First off, you'll trust them to maybe subscribe to their list, or maybe you'll trust them to maybe buy something for like $5 or $10, and maybe you'll trust them to do this. And the more you interact with them, the more you read their emails and they continue to be valuable. The more you do this over time, that track record of successful transactions increases your confidence that the next transaction you're making is going to work, and the next, and the next, and the next. And so you're more likely to stick with it, right? And it's not just the number of transactions, it's also the value. The more you do this on the small things, the bigger and bigger the things you'll trust them in, right? And so this is extremely important, right? If you want to eventually help someone on a high level and charge them thousands and thousands of dollars, you need to earn that trust over succession of trades, right? You need to view all interactions, all communication as a series of trades and ways to build and maintain trust. the relationship that a business has with their customer base is one of their greatest assets. Like that is the thing, that's the source from which all their future revenue grows. So the better you can get at enhancing and magnifying that trust, the better you'll be able to help any business you work with, either one you own or one that you help someone with, the better you'll be able to help them earn more money, right? The more a business is trusted by their market, the more customers they'll get and the more money they'll be able to make. This is one of the keys of business, one of the keys of providing value as a copywriter that you have to understand if you have any desire at all to have any kind of success in this field.